Welcome to JD's Prep. In this question, we're trying to figure out which of the three expressions are equivalent to x cubed over y. Now, starting off with a quick refresher, looking at option number one, we need to be familiar with what happens when we have an exponent of -1. So generally, if you have x to the power of -1, that's the same thing as 1 over x to the power of +1. Similarly, if you have a fraction, like let's say a over b to the power of -1, that's actually the same thing as b to the power of 1 over a to the power of 1, or just b over a. So taking a look at option number one, we can see that that is definitely the same as x cubed over y. We could rewrite this by flipping the fraction that's reciprocal and getting x cubed over y to the power of 1, which is essentially the first expression. So option number one is definitely equivalent. Now let's take a look at option number two. We have the cubed root of x to the power of 9 multiplied by y to the power of -1. Now, there's a couple different ways to approach the cubed root of x to the power of 9. One way to think of it is that x to the power of 9 is the same thing as x cubed times x cubed times x cubed. So by taking the third or cubed root of that, well, we just get x cubed, because you're essentially asking what cubed is x to the power of 9. So it's x cubed. Another way to consider this is that we could rewrite this radical as a power. It would become x to the power of 9 over 3. Remember that the index becomes your denominator in the fraction within the exponent, and the exponent here, the 9, becomes the numerator. And of course, x to the power of 9 over 3 is the same thing as x cubed. And of course, y to the power of -1, just like we talked about up here, is the same thing as 1 over y. So really, our second expression here is the same thing as x cubed over y to the power of +1. So that checks out, and it is equivalent to the original expression. All right, finally, let's take a look at the third expression. We have x to the power of 6 multiplied by the fourth root of y to the power of 8 over x cubed y cubed. So let's start by simplifying the fourth root of y to the power of 8. That is the same thing as y squared. You can also think of it as y to the power of 8 over 4. So this becomes x to the power of 6 times y squared over x cubed y cubed. Now, since we are dividing powers with the same bases, we can combine them by subtracting the exponents. So for x, we would have 6 minus 3, which is cubed. And y, we would take 2 minus 3 to get -1. And then to rewrite this with positive exponents, we would flip that y to the power of -1 onto the bottom, so it would now have a positive exponent of 1. And you can see that matches our original expression. So it turns out that all three of them are actually equivalent to the original expression. That's it for this video, and thanks for using JD's Prep.